All right. Welcome to this very powerful discussion revolving around the future of humanity and what we are currently facilitating as a collective mission in order to bring change to the world. All right. So I've got my guest expert here, Atena. She is a subconscious mindset reprogramming expert, specifically focusing on utilizing hypnosis to drive deep-rooted changes within your subconscious belief systems in order for you to live a much more elevated version of your life. And today, our entire focus is on bringing conversations around what does it actually mean to evolve humanity as a collective? What does it actually mean to live your truest, most expansive versions of yourself? What does it actually mean to embrace your true freedom of self as we as a collective begin to evolve into the age of spirit, beyond the age of body and beyond the age of the mind, the age of intellect. So Atena, very, very excited to have you on this specific discussion. I would love for you to introduce a little bit about who you are, what you're focusing on in your space, and why is this conversation relevant to you, your clients, and the world right now.
Thank you so much for having me, Ray. Well, you did such a fantastic job at introducing me. That really hit all the points in terms of what I do. And for me, this is just such an important mission because it transcribed even through my own life, my own journey of, having that career, getting the education, doing all the things, and not only witnessing that I was deeply unfulfilled and unhappy, but then I realized that I'm very not unique in this moment, in that situation. And when I started passing through it and really stepping into what I believe is my authentic state of being and really doing the things that matter, that I'm meant to contribute on this earth, I realized there are so many other humans that are waiting for that moment as well. And I feel like we're shifting as a collective. We're going to start rapidly shifting. So I'm all about these kind of conversations. I don't know if that answered all the question.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful to hear. And it's so important because from my perspective, it is through conversations between different people, different thought leaders, that we actually gather different parts of ourselves that we have not met within individually, right? My understanding is that we are all different expressions of a unified whole. And it's only in these conversations do we begin to fully understand a different model of reality for us to integrate within ourselves, to leverage, to embody, right? And then to transcend, right? And that's why I'm very, very excited for the conversation that we're going to have today. So the first things first, in case you do not know yet, I'm currently writing a book, right? And the entire focus is on embracing your unconditional truth, living life fully expressed without resistance, rejection, and repression. Because a life resisted, rejected, and repressed is a life that is not fully expressed, right? And the understanding behind that is how can we, each and every single one of us, begin to really dive into the unconditional truth of our soul being, right? In order to facilitate the world through our truest version of expression. And I believe when that happens, when it comes from a place of unconditional love, then we can really begin to disrupt and even dissolve the systems at play. Because instead of giving our power away, we're now coming from a place of self-sovereignty, right? And the systems at play no longer needs to be. So just to really bring into this conversation into light, why this is important. So based on your perspective, why is this period of time the most important inflection point in humanity right now to embrace the unconditional truth coming from a place of unconditional love? And what does true freedom mean to you, Atena?
Well, I believe it's always been important. I saw even an interview with, I don't know, you remember Princess Diana? She's pretty famous. And she said, yeah, she's like, I believe the biggest disease that humanity has is a lack of self-love. It's a lack of unconditional self-love. This has been something that has plagued us for so many generations, so many years. And at this point, I feel like since we also have the utility of technology, we're way more interconnected than we were maybe even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And there's a lot more, it's like the more connected we are, the more disconnected we are becoming also at the same time. So I believe that there's a combination of a new opportunity, a new focus that's being brought up. And I also believe that our psychology is evolving. I think of like 100 years ago, the psychology for even raising your children was let the child cry, let the child just be there and don't soothe the child, let them nurture themselves. And we're learning that actually that's very traumatic for children. It tells them to not express themselves, that it's not safe for them to express themselves. And it's starting to come to light. We're starting to understand that the brain is not completely hardwired. It's plastic. We can change. I grew up with you. I don't change at this age. You don't change at that. Once you hit a certain age, you don't change. We know better now. We know way more now scientifically. And so I feel like because of all of this, the spirit world is so much more, I hate to say it like this, but legitimate, right? It's always been legitimate, but now, 20 years ago, meditation was for weirdos. Now it's like, oh, you don't meditate? Why not? Right. So I feel like we are at a pivotal point, and there's very much a unique opportunity to become even more vocal about how important it is to love ourselves. It's the pillar of everything. Like I see self-love, unconditional self-love, as like the foundation of a house. You can build the wings, you can build a kitchen, you can build 10 floors. If you don't have love for you, you can't enjoy it, and you can't, be free, even in the liberation of attaining all of that achievement, the accumulation of wealth, the accumulation of friends. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Because I could keep
that makes perfect sense. And for such a long time, because of humanity's perception of our external reality, right, scientific systems, economic systems, and so on and so forth, we have always had this belief that the mind is what causes reality to be, right? And then now we're actually understanding that the mind is a construct, that the mind can be easily manipulated, can be easily molded by ancestral patterns, borrowed beliefs, social conditioning. And we're beginning to tune into that the spirit is what causes the mind to be in various ways. So it's very interesting when you mentioned the understanding revolving around self-love. Because for those of you who are watching this, there is a very powerful concept by David Hawkins, the map of consciousness, where he measures emotions on a vibrational frequency spectrum. And my perception is this: for a lot of individuals right now, the global thought form, on a generic sense, is vibrating at a default frequency of fear, right? And fear vibrates at a frequency below 200 hertz. So there's an understanding revolving around the concept of self-love. When you talk about self-love, for people who are vibrating below the frequency of 200 hertz, their perception of love is distorted, which means that when they actually step into self-love, it can come from a place of fear, which translates into self-centeredness, which translates into it's just for me, myself, and I. So based on your understanding, how do people actually discern the difference between love coming from fear, right? Perceived love or false perception of love coming from fear versus unconditional love coming from expansiveness?
That's an excellent question. So in my experience, I'll relay it back to my own experience so that it becomes a bit streamlined.
Beautiful.
So I've always even loved myself. And I believed wholeheartedly that I was a happy, loving human being. And no one could really tell me otherwise until there came a distinct moment in my life where I firmly realized I have no idea how to hold space for myself. I am completely reliant on other humans to validate me, to see me, to hear me. And so even when they would validate me, sometimes I wouldn't hear it. One of the most basic examples, give someone a compliment, see how they receive it, right? You can tell right away almost. And so when I realized, well, I need to completely change this. And it took stillness. It took a pause in life. We are always trying to go, get that next achievement, get that next accomplishment, get that status. But it's like you really genuinely, I believe we all need to stop and take a moment to pause and relearn how to love ourselves, relearn how to be without doing. and reconnect with our inner child. This for me can't be shadowed over. Like every human needs to take a time in their adult life to reconnect with their inner child. And only when that is done, genuinely only when that is done, I believe that not for everyone, but for a great majority, that's when we are able to feel safe to love.
Beautiful. Exactly. And you mentioned something with regards to inner child work. What does that actually mean for most people?
For most people, I mean, if you asked me when I was, in my 20s, I would have said I have no idea what you're talking about. I discovered inner child work. I read it in a book. I thought it was going to be some easy meditation. I was supposed to meet my friend for brunch, and I start reading this meditation and I break down like sobbing, mascara running down my face. And I was like, what just happened? And I realized that at the basic level, it's taking a moment to just breathe and go inwards, even like at the basic level. Like you don't need to go that deep in the beginning, and have a conversation with your 5-year-old self, 7-year-old self, imagining where you were as a child, what you were doing, and just talking. It's so basic, right? So that's how I would always explain it. It's not some scary thing that you need to go down this big rabbit hole, especially not in the beginning. And after a while, though, what I very much recommend everyone does when it comes to inner child work is understanding that your inner child will need you to take over as the parent within your own subconscious mind, because we all have what is called basically unconscious family loyalty. So you're born in a family, whether you like it or not, you are conditioned to want to conform to that family. You are conditioned to want to belong to that family. This is why sometimes when there's one person that's successful and the rest of the family is not, either successful, let's say monetarily or love-wise, either there is like just a lack of communication, like that person just doesn't want to talk to the family, or there's like a basic dis-ease within that person. They just feel lonely, they feel lost, they don't understand why. And that's because there is a gap between what is within their subconscious identity as an inner child, what is okay, and what can lead to a potential, it's going to sound dramatic, like a death, right? Because if you leave the herd, you leave the family unit from the jungle and you go out, this can cause for you to get lost and yeah. So there's the basics, and then I would say it kind of builds up to being in that place where you love your family, you connect with your family, but you also take over and you say, I got you. You tell your inner child, I got you. You bring the inner child into kind of the present moment, in the sense that, how do I say this? You're not your inner child. Like you're not the 7-year-old version of you and is dead, it's gone. But within your subconscious mind, you still may operate from that level. 50% of our emotional intelligence is built before the age of 5. And eventually that gets locked inside your subconscious. All your emotions are there, your patterns are there. So the inner child, the work, it's about going in there and being like, okay, what served me as a child doesn't serve me today. So I'm going to extract what served me, and I'm going to let the rest peacefully go. And I'm going to reconstruct my emotional intelligence from the present day and continue to build on that. That was a lot, but I hope that answered.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Exactly. And I love conversations like this. I'm not sure if you realize and have those depths of awareness whenever we have conversations like this. I always feel high. Always feel as though like I'm high on life in various ways because of the energetic exchange that's at play. And these are very, very pivotal conversations that not many people have, especially people who are stuck below the vibrational hertz of 200, right? So in that saying, like I've got this understanding, right? People used to believe that when you're born, into this world, you're a blank slate, right? My perception is that it's not entirely true. Your soul, like, I don't think it happens by chance that you're born into a specific family, right? A specific set of parents, a specific culture, a specific race, a specific body by chance. I have this perception that your soul chose that for the purpose of integrating a particular set of lessons your soul have yet to integrate in its journey, right? So the moment you are born, you're literally a beautiful 3D life form that has been infused with ancestral patterns from your generational lineage, right? And these are aspects that are literally, in a way, conditioned into you in order for your soul to live out and play out what it needs to play out to further integrate and embody its own particular set of lessons for further transcendence down the line, right? And then guess what happens? The moment you're born, you come from the soul plane into this 3D everyday reality. You look around, so much chaos, so much distractions, so much aspects of reality that doesn't seem in its light being, in its light form, right? And then you see your two parents, right, as the most prevalent authority figures in this specific environment. Of course, in order for your soul to feel safe, you begin to take on their beliefs of what it means to be safe in this specific environment, right? So from ancestral patterns, you're now being like pushed into or conditioned by borrowed beliefs from authority figures, and that continues to transpire throughout your life. The teachers, governments, anyone you perceive as authority figures, you begin to take on beliefs that initially served you until it does not, right? So it's a very interesting quadrant of conditioning that we are literally born into straight from the start, right? And then you go into society. The moment you go into society, you begin to receive all of these different distractions, media, what people are saying, wanting to fit into a specific group, wanting to conform, wanting to belong, right? You begin to take on all of this conditioning about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be this, what it means to be that, and so on and so forth, right? And you begin to lose sight of who you truly are. And that's why I believe that the human experience is exactly what you expressed, the going back, the looking back at how we have come to be, the delayering process, right? In order to really discover the truth of who we are as we evolve, as we progress. And that is the triad of subconscious conditioning, ancestral patterns, borrowed beliefs from authority figures, as well as social conditioning. And I believe that is the human experience.
I love that. I definitely resonate with a lot of what you said. I think the part is also, we also have that ancestral power, right? And
Yes.
I definitely, for the longest time, resisted believing that, yes, I chose to be born where I was born. And I think the moment we unclick that, we also free ourselves. We're like, okay, what were the lessons that I desired to learn in this life? And the only part of us that I believe that potentially is like a blank slate, and what popular culture talks about, is the ego, the identity, the I. But for anyone who believes that, oh no, I've been conditioned and this is why I'm not free, there's a part of you that no matter how conditioned you are, just feels different. Like, I was conditioned into going and getting an education. That's from the culture, right? Got to get an education. You got to do this. This is what it takes to be successful. And part of me was like, but that's just not me. How do I know that? How do I know that before I go through it? That's the soul. That's your heart. Your heart, the wisdom of the heart. I believe that when we all connect to that, then we start freeing ourselves from so many patterns of conditioning, of fear, and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. I would love to ask you, I would love for you to describe a transformative experience during your journey where confronting a past wound or a fear led to profound healing for yourself.
I would definitely say two of the most pivotal ones, because they're actually quite interrelated. The first one was when I talked about earlier, even saying, wow, I don't know how to love myself. And that was a scary thing to look inside and say, why don't I love myself? and to genuinely go and look inside and do that inner child work, it led to a transformation of understanding, wow, this career path that I'm in, even though I'm passionate about it, now that I've learned to love myself, this isn't it for me. This is good, but it's not speaking to my greatness. And as I continue to expand on that unconditional self-love, manifested my husband, and I began to build a life that really reflected who Atena is meant to be in this life. And I would say that getting introduced to deep shadow work, especially when it comes to how I relate to my homeland, Iran, and how I relate to a lot of the things that come from that culture, being in North America, that was probably the scariest part, but also the best part and the best part. And it continues to transpire because it's a continuous evolution. Those two, like learning to love unconditionally and fearlessly looking at the shadow self and loving my shadow, embracing my shadow and choosing to extract the lessons, has led to my life today. Like, if you told me 5-10 years ago that this would be my life, I would genuinely be like, okay, maybe I don't know how this would happen. That doesn't happen for people. That's not true. There's lies. I wouldn't have understood what would happen just by doing that. And I would say beyond the achievements, it's the ease of being every single day. You can't pay enough money. You can't achieve enough. You can't be loved enough to feel at ease with yourself, like every single day, throughout the day, 90% of the day. Doesn't mean I don't get super uncomfortable and there's moments that I'm cringing and moments I'm breaking down. All of that still happens, but there's such a groundedness of, I'm okay. I'm fucking fantastic. I'm an extraordinary human and I have something to offer this world, from a place of deep self-acceptance, deep self-love, and a deep wanting to give back, not because I have to prove, but because I genuinely want to see this world become a better place.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I would love for us to talk about manifestation of your ideal partner, which for those who are watching and you are desiring to find the love of your life, it's always a very fun conversation to have. But first, I always have this understanding that you cannot love someone beyond the point you have yet to love within yourself, right? Which brings us to this very important question. What do you believe are the most common obstacles or barriers that prevent individuals from fully experiencing and embodying unconditional self-love?
I think the biggest barrier is we've been so used to self-rejection that we are afraid to love ourselves. I know that I did the inner child healing, the self-love practices for a couple of months before I met my husband. But the deeper the relationship got and the more love he wanted to give me, I was at times unable to receive it because I would catch myself. I'm like, I've never been this loved. What happens if I receive this and he disappears or this goes away? Can I still be? And what I found throughout this process, just on my own and then working with clients over the years, is letting your body feel safe for the new story, letting your body breathe the love. And beyond that, also witnessing yourself as a soul. Your soul knows you are the resonance of unconditional love. For me, one of the biggest breakthroughs of this over the years was a psychedelic experience with 5-MeO-DMT, where the people call it the God molecule. You literally feel like you're dying. It's one of the scariest parts in the beginning. And then you go into a place where I believe that it's as much as the human mind can compute without actually dying, into what felt like going into the unified field, source, being in the field of God. And I realized everything that I had thought of, and I started to believe, like, okay, we are all of us humans at the core unconditional love. And the less we fear being loved, the less we ourselves, the more we can receive it, the more we can give it. And I realized that at the very end of it, we say, okay, we're going to die and go to heaven, but really this is potentially our heaven on earth. And so a resistance to seeing this world also as a beautiful place, because there's so much destruction, because there's so much chaos, because there's so many people trapped living inside the fear of their ego, we think that it's normal almost. It's drink your sorrows away. That's normal shit. Oh yeah, most people, I don't feel comfortable with that. No, I don't feel that's, of course it's all normal, but it's not. It's anything but. And so I think the biggest hurdle is first the normalization of the self-rejection. And the second hurdle really is just taking the time, giving yourself the grace to pause long enough to witness yourself in relationships with others and with yourself, and to genuinely take a moment to let yourself feel safe to love and be loved.
Exactly. And a lot of people spend so much time being afraid of rejection, right? But regret is the most fundamental thing that we should be aware of, because rejection is simply an answer, but regret is an eternal question you will never have an answer to, right? And there's the understanding beyond that, right? So very, very, very powerful. So what does unconditional love mean to you? Because I know a lot of people actually have challenges, like really understanding what unconditional love is, because the first thing they think of could be with their parents, or could be with their intimate partners. But there is an understanding, at least in my perception, that relationships can be conditional, but love is unconditional. So what does unconditional love mean to you?
To me, it means that no matter what happens in this life, you are open to accepting where you are. Like, this is where I am, without judging it. You are understanding that forgiveness is like drinking water. You need to forgive. You need to breathe. It's about allowing yourself to feel. It's like this vibration. It's not a tangible thing. Allowing yourself to feel at ease at times. And I would say those for potentially like just are those pillars, and saying, okay, no matter what happens in this life, I'm giving myself the opportunity to accept, to declare also what I actually want. A lot of times, especially with a partner, a relationship, money, we're afraid to ask for what we want, because we're already afraid of disappointment. We're already afraid of rejection. And when you love yourself unconditionally, you're like, okay, well, I may get rejected. I may be disappointed. I may not get what I want, but that's okay, because I got me. I got my back. And there is nothing I can do in this life that will make me unlovable, right? And this isn't about saying, okay, now go ahead and do whatever you want. Like, there is a point to guilt, there is a point to shame, there is a point to all these lower vibrational energies, because if we don't face them, then the world would be a bunch of naked people going around potentially killing each other. I don't know, I'm exaggerating. I'm painting an exaggerated picture. But
you never know.
What I'm saying is that when you genuinely step into that, saying like, okay, so there is no true fear. Fear is, fear and danger are two separate things. Danger is real, but fear is a figment of my mind. It's a creation of my ego. So love is to look at fear in the face and not tell your fear, you suck, you're not worthy, why are you afraid? It's saying, okay, I see you, fear. We're going to be okay. This is where we're at. This is where we want to go. And I'm going to forgive myself along the way, because I will stumble, I will fall, I will forgive my past, I will let go, and I will stay open to the universe. I will stay open to receiving.
Yes, yeah, and that's the challenge, right? Because of a lot of people, they have their hearts closed. right? And it's the openness that allows for the acceptance, for the forgiveness, for the awareness. So I would love to dive a little bit into your modality, specifically hypnosis, because I'm such a huge fan of hypnosis, and I love leveraging it and really using it for various purposes in terms of even self-hypnosis, sometimes in terms of sex as well, which is fun. But I would love to hear, how do you use hypnosis to support your clients towards moving through all of these limitations in order to embrace their truest selves to live the most expansive versions of their life? Like, why hypnosis?
So I stumbled on hypnosis thanks to my mother. She kept insisting. And when we learned hypnosis together, I know, so super blessed. I thank her all the time. When we were getting certified together, what happened was that I had already been engaged to my husband. So I was already in that place, but I noticed the constant pushbacks on my end, unconscious. And I would catch myself, but they would happen frequently. And I began to very much witness that no matter what conscious work I did, no matter how many meditations I did, Reiki, energy healing, seeing therapists, it just was not really changing at the core level. And I experienced through this process a group session with my mom, where we tapped into my unconscious family loyalty, knowing that my parents had a horrible marriage that led to a horrible divorce. And there isn't a model in my family for the love I'm building, the love that I'm currently experiencing. And in that hypnosis session, I was totally set free, and it blew my mind. And so I was like, I'm going to get on this. And I started working with clients, and now I take them through a process where we start generally, but this can change. We start generally by saying, okay, let's talk about where you are, where you want to go. And let's build a memory from the future. And within hypnosis, what happens is that your entire conscious mind is at ease. You open up. And so you can go inside the subconscious, you can retrieve memories, you can create memories, right? You can create memories of the future. You can invite your spirit, your higher self. You know, meditation is much more of a masculine driven practice, whereas I find hypnosis is feminine energy. Because not trying to control it, you can receive your creative imagination, your intuitive imagination. The number of times I have clients saying, I didn't expect to see that. I didn't expect to hear that. It's because they're opening up, then they're receiving guidance from their higher self. They're receiving soul guidance, right? And so we do that. It's exceptionally powerful when we do this, because now there is when you look back at your past and you're like, I wish I kind of knew the steps, because it's easy in retrospect, right? So when you do a hypnosis and you see the future, there's suddenly that bridge of faith becomes stronger. Those neural pathways become stronger. And then we do also then inner child healing, where we do some cord cutting, we thank the parents, we energetically release them, we upgrade the subconscious, the emotional subconscious patterns to what they want. And then we bring in ease of, hey, I read a quote today, there's only, from the Dalai Lama, there's only 2 days that don't actually exist, yesterday and tomorrow. So as much as we're releasing the past, we're embracing the future, we're also stepping into the here and the now. We're training the mind to be present, to be focused. And so why I'm in love with hypnosis is because it is one of the fastest and safest and most effective modalities when it comes to upgrading your subconscious patterns and safely nurturing those new neural pathways and creating, imagine your mind being a garden. I often plant seeds with my clients, seeds that they already have, but we nurture them, we water them, we grow them, we pull out the weeds, we create pathways that work in synergy with what they want to co-create in this life.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting aspect, because at the end of the day, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, right? That's the understanding behind that. And I know in the past, I'm beginning to draw almost like a correlation between people's acceptance of a specific modality, right, and acceptance of technology, because a modality, in essence, right? And technology, it's one and the same in various ways. They're just different expressions of a specific utilization or specific purpose, right? So when we understand hypnosis, in the past, before it became a very powerful modality to transform people's lives, it used to be utilized and leveraged for entertainment, right? Stage performances and so on and so forth. And then when it became mainstream into the holistic wellness industry, people had concerns because they watch these live performances and entertainment, and they see this facilitator who is able to drop people right into a state of unconscious being, right, and begin to get them to do ridiculous aspects or ridiculous stunts, or like, in essence, people's perception of, oh, this person is controlling the other person, manipulating the other person, and so on and so forth. So what aspects of beliefs have you had to shift with your clients or people in general, in the market in general, in terms of their resistance or their perception that hypnosis isn't all real, that there is a danger involved in the modality, and that it is something that needs to be cautious of?
Well, the first thing is that we are all hypnotized. We are
Fuck yes.
hypnotized. So it's like, I totally understand the fear because I had it myself. When I first went, I was like, oh my gosh, when I went to see my first hypnotherapist, I was like, oh my gosh, is this guy going to control my mind? Am I going to lose total control? And so the first thing is, no one loses control without their own consent, right? And my experience has been that it's just so important to enter a relationship with someone that you trust. So I never just dive into hypnosis with clients. We talk for 45 minutes the first session, at least 30 minutes at the basic minimum, to build that trust for them to know. And I never will say something that is completely not for them. Like we have an understanding, we have an understanding of what is going to happen, right? There's things that are staying open, but so to understand that there's a relationship that needs to be built, but just so everyone is clear, I don't want to bring this into any political discussions, but know that when you are watching TV and you are watching the news and information is given to you repetitively, fear-mongering you, you're watching TV, your brainwave is going down, right? You're hearing things differently, and suddenly the fear of God is literally put inside you. People were completely brainwashed the last few years. And it's crazy that we're starting to slowly come out and pretending it never happened, right? So we're all hypnotized. You're hypnotized from a young age. You're hypnotized throughout your adulthood. I would say that hypnosis, for me, part of it is dehypnotizing yourself from these false limiting beliefs that you've subscribed to, that you're unconscious about. And so part of the magic of the work I do with my clients anyways, is that we raise the conscious awareness, and the conscious awareness being like, oh my gosh, that's a red light. That's a red flag. Why am I thinking this? Why am I subscribed to this? And as we raise the conscious awareness, then we go inside the subconscious with their consent, and we're like, let's weed it out. And very often with a client who's afraid of whatever it may be, I'll tell them right before going deep, you are in full control. There is nothing that I will say. If you don't want to accept it, just put a big X on it. Never have I had a client say you shouldn't have said that, ever. Because when it's done ethically and when it's done with consent and the person is conscious and aware of what we're about to do, it's absolute magic. Stage hypnosis, it's a different story. It's still magic. People want to do it. And just so we're also clear, not everyone is hypnotizable to the same extent. Some people, so like me, I can't watch certain shows before going to bed. I'll have nightmares because my filter is just a lot slimmer. My husband can watch like a murder mystery show right before going to bed. He's fine. I can't. Okay. And that's also about understanding yourself. And so for anyone who's afraid and who's like, I'm scared of mind control, first thing you want to do then is mind what you watch, mind what you hear, mind the conversations you're having,
Yes,
because
correct.
you put yourself in those, like you're being hypnotized.
Exactly. Conditioning is hypnotic suggestions, right? Um, as long as you have a limitation that you're fighting for, you have been hypnotized. Because think about it, right? In the history of how we have evolved. In the past, everything that was deemed impossible, or most things that were deemed impossible, have now become possible. We used to think we were not, it was impossible to fly across different countries. Now travel is such a huge thing, right? In the past, we wouldn't have think that the potential of doctors, lawyers can be replaced by technology. Now we've got artificial intelligence. So as long as there's a limitation you're fighting for, you have been hypnotized by the systems at play.
100%.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I would love to dive. The final thing I would love to talk about that I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this are very, very curious, because we've mentioned that, is how have you manifested your ideal partner?
So the first thing I did was make a statement. It was the New Year's Eve of 2016. I wrote in my life script, I decided to script. So that was the first thing. I said, I want
So,
unconditional love to be it's my number one priority. That's what I prioritize. So I made a point to focus on love, unconditional love specifically. And once I put that at the forefront of my mind, and that was my focus, right? My eyes began to open up. My spirit began to open up. I began to dive into the things that are stopping me from embracing this truth. And the more I did this, then I realized what I actually deserve. One of the things that stopped me from manifesting for a long time, and people were like, well, why are you still single? And at some point it was clear to me, it's because I said, I'm not seeing the vision of love clearly. And so whoever comes right now, they're not going to be a match for who I'm becoming. And so once that became clear, I scripted. I wrote, I thank the universe for my husband. I wrote down not only the qualities I desire in a partner, I also wrote who I get to be in this relationship. And I think that's a fundamental component that people lack. People say, okay, I want someone a 5'6", or I don't know, 5'6", 6'2". I don't know. I'm 5'6". That's why I came out. Blonde hair, blue eyes. He's driving a Mercedes. He does this. He does that. Great, go for it, honey. Put all of that down if that's really important for you. I decided to focus on, how does this person make me feel? How do I make them feel? And I also realized at that point, the things that hadn't worked out in the past, they didn't work out for a reason. So I wanted to try something new. I actually wrote, I want us to have very different intelligences so that we complement each other. And in full transparency, I wrote it down the first time a little conservative because I was scared to own different parts. And so about 2 weeks later, I tore it up and I added things. Like one of the things that I love is I love to receive gifts. And until I did the deep inner work, I didn't feel worthy to say that. I thought, oh, that's just for shallow people. But that's part of my love language. I'm touchy-feely. So I want someone touchy-feely. And I love receiving gifts. So my husband loves to give me gifts. And so the first thing that happened when we met, he bought me my first watch, my first beautiful, expensive, well, expensive my standards watch. And when he gave it to me, I received it with ease. And I said, thank you. And in the past, I never accepted gifts. I was like, no, don't give me nothing. Blah, blah, blah. So the manifestation process with my husband, like it was kind of an evolution and a process in terms of first saying, okay, learn how to love me. Let me put it at the forefront. That commitment to unconditional love, by the way, for anyone listening, it continues to be a pillar in my life. It continues to be a focus and a priority. So it hasn't gone away. And I continue to focus and prioritize love above anything else, really.
Yeah.
So that there was the scripting. And then I played. I decided to have fun. I decided to unsubscribe from beliefs that just were stupid. Sorry, not to say that my thoughts were stupid, but they just did not serve me, these thoughts. Like, there is a
Yeah,
saying, originally I live in Montreal, and if anyone from Montreal is listening, like, you'll laugh, because they say, okay, all the good men in Montreal are taken, they're married, they're criminals,
right.
they're players. And I thought to myself, and I would say all these things, I'm like, does this serve me? Does it serve me to think this, that all the good men are taken, or if they're not taken, they're criminals, or if they're
Yeah.
not criminals, they're cheaters? Is it true that there's a lot of men like that? Yeah, it's true. But is it the ultimate truth? Absolutely not. So I began to shift my belief. And at the moment I shift those beliefs and I declared what I desire, the caliber of men that began to ask me out on dates, the way they treated me, completely changed. And I was also very easily able to walk away from a situation or a
Mm,
date that I was like, you know what? You're a great person. You're not my
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And when I met
Beautiful.
Stephen, it was just like something took over my body. Something took over my body. I began to act differently, behave
Mm,
differently. And I don't have words for it except that I scripted it. It went inside my subconscious, and those commands just happened. And there was a lot of playing, but there wasn't games. Like, it was fun games.
yes.
It was
Yeah.
fun games. Like, it wasn't like he didn't text me for a week kind of games. It was like, okay,
Yes.
so he said this. What do I say? And that's how I manifested my husband.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, speaking of all of that, there is definitely an energetic polarity when it comes to intimate relationships. And I would love for us to explore that because for a lot of women, business owners or entrepreneurs who might be watching this or listening to this, they've got this huge success that they've created for themselves and they are wanting an ideal partner that could meet them in all that they are. And that comes with the energetic polarity at play. So I would love to really dive into the polarity in intimate relationships, specifically yours, and how you experience polarity and what it means for you. The understanding is this, right? On a generic sense, the polarity of the divine masculine is to unconditionally give. And then the polarity for the energetic of the divine feminine is to unconditionally receive, right? And then for a lot of people that I've had conversations with, a lot of women, what they've begun to realize as I began to have these conversations with them is that they realize that in the relationships they've had in the past, right, they have not fulfilled them. They have been the one giving too much of themselves, right, without being received in that aspect. So I would love for you to share about your experiences in terms of the imbalance in polarities that you have had in your previous relationships and the difference in this relationship they are in and the natural state of being that you particularly just feel the most expansive in when it comes to the energetic exchanges in an intimate relationship?
That's an excellent question. I definitely was part of those women back in the day where I was giving, not able to receive, and I wanted to be hyper independent. That was a big
Yeah,
time thing. And a lot of men very much used to say to me, I love an independent woman, but they would resent it. They would resent the long hours that I would work, or my
yeah,
decision to want something better, or want something that has nothing to do with them really. And so part of the manifestation also with my husband said he wants my success. Like, my success is nurtured
yeah,
and loved. So the thing that happened for me is that when we met, I decided at that moment that I would put our relationship at the forefront. Not that I was putting my career on the back burner, but I realized that to genuinely, authentically give this relationship a chance, I had to treat it as something valuable and something very important. And so
yeah.
I continued to work those long hours, like I would come home sometimes at 9, 10 p.m. from the office, and he would have dinner ready for me, which is just like super blessed. Like, what a
Beautiful.
great person. Oh, I think we cut. Oh, okay, we didn't cut. Okay. So the balance for me was that I decided in that moment that I would nurture the relationship give myself the opportunity to receive without letting it take away from what I've built for myself, and also not take what I've built for myself and go in my corner, if that makes sense, in the sense that this is a partnership. A lot of times I hear this so much. I want to be 50-50 with my partner. I have zero interest in being 50-50 with my partner. We're not built the same. We don't have the same interest. We're not both great at the same things. I'd rather be 100% me and he's 100% him.
Wow, that's
and
beautiful.
I let us come together and we lead through that. And through that, there's always conversations that need to be had, right? Like if it's not, it doesn't feel good to always give, and it doesn't feel good to always receive, right? So you have to have conversation, you have to be open. And I don't know if I'm answering the full question, but I feel like this is like a 3-hour topic that I could go into because the number of arguments people have over menial things, like he didn't do the dishes or she didn't do this. It's like it's a long conversation.
I think it's just like an expression of an unmet need, right? That is deeper within, right? Like he doesn't do the dishes. It actually doesn't mean it's not about the dishes. It's about something else that they have repressed, in various ways, and it's coming out in the form of the dishes, right? So it's so interesting.
It's like it's the foundation of actually building a partnership. Like, especially, I don't know wherever people are tuning in, but in North America, there's just such a focus on individualism that we forget that a relationship is with two people, two wholes living their lives together, making something better, right? And so sometimes it's about letting go of control. Like, so many times we want to, especially as women, we want to micromanage, like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it right? And it's like, okay, well, what if I just trust him? Trust, and I let go and I lean back and I receive. It's a huge thing. And it takes a lot of conscious choices, conscious decisions, and also doing that subconscious work and easing the body to feel, to let yourself truly receive it, and to trust that what you desire is going to come to you, and to vocalize when your needs aren't met in not a condescending way, in a, hey, this is my need. You're not wrong. I'm not right. I'm not right. You're not wrong. Like, forget that. Let's build something beautiful together. And this is what I need. What do you talk?
Exactly. Communication, exactly. Yeah. Not all the passive aggressive kind of like, I expect you to read my mind kind of thing. Yeah. So interesting.
Guys don't read your mind. Tell them. Plain English.
Cool. Awesome. Beautiful. So having said that, if you have to give one piece of advice to people who are potentially experiencing challenges in their intimate relationships, or they're experiencing challenges attracting their ideal partners, what is one thing that you get to say to them?
Bring it down to one thing. Remember that anything that separates you from embracing unconditional love and feeling that unconditional love in your body is a lie. And it's not a lie for you to reject, but it's a lie for you to have the audacity to face and to have the courage, courage, right? The courageous heart, right? To look at what parts of society, what part of life has told you that this separation has to be. Because part of your work, part of all of our work, is to bridge those gaps. And the moment we all begin to bridge it, you're not just setting yourself free, you're setting everyone around you free. So I don't know if that answered the question, but
that is beautiful. That is beautiful. The sentiment as from my end would be, it is not union when one disunited individual joins with another disunited individual, right? So for a divine union, for a divine intimate relationship, you have to feel whole within yourself first. You have to fill your own cup first. Then you will attract the other person who is also filling his or her own cup. And then when you come together, it's expansiveness. So exactly what you said. Perfect. All right. Final question, Atena. How do you envision unconditional love, not just as an outcome, but as a driving force or a calling in the journey towards true freedom for humanity as a whole?
Oh, that's a big one for it to be the last question. I believe that it's the foundation of every human being. I don't understand why it's not taught to us in schools, to be quite honest. I think that it should be. I think it should be indoctrinated in the sense that we all need to learn. We think that it's just a thing that happens, but there's not a surprise that it's a surprise for me, sorry, that I only really learned about it at the age of 32. And there are people way past that age that still don't understand what is unconditional love. So I feel like the more we vocalize what it is, the more we make people not wrong for not understanding it, but holding that compassionate lens of, hey, human, you are meant to embrace unconditional love. You are unconditional love. So let's unsubscribe from anything that makes you feel separate from it. It will bring an ease to society as a foundation, right? Because it's like what I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you have 10 homes, if you have a huge social network, even if you have a thriving business as a legacy that you leave for your children as a trust fund or whatever. There's a reason why people, even at the most successful selves that we idealize in society, still experience death by suicide because they just don't feel good enough. So I believe that when we actually take the time to go through that process, each individually and collectively, to make this a priority, it's going to heal us. We're going to continue doing all the things. We're going to continue getting that money, getting that business, having those relationships. We're just going to enjoy it a lot more. There's going to be ease and peace. And we don't know, actually, right now. We don't know what we don't know. So when the whole collective begins to really breathe this and it becomes, more predominant, we're going to become more world-centric. We're going to become more cosmocentric, which means that we're going to stop seeing borders as like a sense of separation. We're going to start seeing that it's not just us in this lifetime, but what am I also leaving for the next lifetimes? We're going to see that continuity better, because right now, most of the world, they're trapped either in their ego or they're trapped inside just their family unit or their nation, and that's all they see, right? But when we embrace unconditional love, I believe that it's going to break those barriers and it's going to bring a whole new world order, one that is going to reteach us as a collective how to live in every sense of the word. And that's like, that could be a whole PhD thesis statement right there.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. All right. Final thing, as we break it all back, chunk down. I always love to do this exercise with people at the end of the interviews, right? To really tune into the spirit, right? And to just do a quick projection of what the world would look like when every single individual is embodied in unconditional self-love, unconditional love for others, and serving the greater good of all. So I would love for you to close your eyes and just drop into your heart space. Feel into the true spirit that is Atena. And I would love for you to express and share. What do you see when humanity begins to embody unconditional love as its default vibrational frequency?
I think the first thing I see is that we're going to free ourselves from war. We're going to free ourselves from very strict religious dominant thoughts that keep us separate from the truth of God. we're still going to have drama because we love that drama as humans. The drama is going to be different. We're going to experience the heaven on earth. I believe we're already experiencing it, but it's just not really possible to fully acknowledge with all the separation that we have now. And this might sound completely crazy, but I believe it might even free us from just living on earth. I think we come here as spirits, as souls on earth to reincarnate, to experience something different, to experience our essence in this physical 3D reality. So I feel like once that mission is somewhat complete, there's going to be, anyways, I believe there's different planets around for sure with life. I believe that to not acknowledge that is, maybe that's the crazier part. Maybe we'll open ourselves to that communication.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you want, I want you to share that with
Beautiful.
people. Like,
Beautiful. 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 Awesome. Awesome. All right. And for those of you who are watching and listening, I would love for you to imagine a world where there are no systems at play, where the only system at play have been facilitated by technology from a place of truth. And the only congruence that we get to now play out is to go, how true can we live our life? How true can we facilitate humanity? How true can we experience the depth of reality that is the life that we are living right now? And what happens when the economic system becomes an ecological exchange of our innate, truest gifts? How would life look like then? It's been a pleasure, Atena.
thank you
Such a pleasure having this conversation. For those of the listeners and the viewers out there, if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
The fastest place is probably Instagram at I am Atena Morelli, and Facebook it's Atena Sadegh, so AtenaSadegh. And I'm also on YouTube. You can also check me out, Atena Morelli, on YouTube, or just find me on my website, www.prettyhappyhabits.com.
Perfect. I will drop all of the links down below in the description, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook. Right. Such a pleasure for each and every single one of you listening. Right. Yeah, we're looking forward to the next interview. Atena, such a pleasure. We'll chat soon. All right.